Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Boomers in the US hold $17 trillion in assets. What happens to the younger generations when they die and leave all that wealth to us, the younger generations? I hate it to break it to you, friend, but the vast majority of that wealth isn't making it to us. It's gonna end up in the hands of the private equity firms that run the elder care industry. This is 100% correct. All of my elderly relatives that have passed away recently were quite wealthy until their health declined in their final years, and 99% of their money got eaten up by medical costs, nursing homes, caregivers. They were mostly shocked and appalled that it wasn't just covered somehow. Maybe they shouldn't have spent the last few decades voting against universal health care and social safety nets. My father and his siblings each got a check for 2 cents after his wealthy mother died, and all of her expenses were finally settled a few years later. Dad framed his check instead of cashing it. And this has killed generational wealth. When my mom died, I got almost nothing. She had taken a loan out against her life insurance, so life insurance went to that. My sister bought the house from my stepdad for a crazy good price. Yep, if this happens, the younger generation gets a thank you card from the nursing home, and whatever's left after private equity takes its cut. Whatever's left. I'm guessing that, after selling the house, cars, and taking every red cent, private equity-owned nursing homes will start sending bills to the next generation. Until they get into debt so their parents can live a few more years. There will be nothing left, only more and more debt. Private equity doesn't care about the long term. That want max profits now, for this quarter, today. A good chunk of that will end up going to the Medicaid, Medicare, insurance for end-of-life expenses. My parents already transferred ownership of their house to me, and I rent it back to them for the cost of property taxes and insurance. My own plan after they pass or go into a nursing home is to sell it, pay off my own house, and think about semi-early retirement with no mortgage left to worry about, i.e., quit my job and find something easy to do just for health insurance and living expenses, even if it means taking a big pay cut. This is correct. Most of their money is going to be taken by nursing homes and hospitals. Unfortunately, that's often the case. A lot of inheritance gets eaten up by healthcare and nursing home costs, which is why planning ahead is so important. So much of that is going to senior care services, nursing homes, assisted living, independent living situations. They drain assets, and there is very little, if anything, being passed down to younger generations in many families. If you estimate around $100,000 per year per person for assisted living, and you're able to sell their home for $400,000, you can see how quickly it disappears. I was fortunate that even with 12 years of assisted living, elder care, my mother had anything to leave me. It took extremely careful management to keep her living situation comfortable, and I fretted endlessly that she'd outlive her money. Kidney failure had other plans, unfortunately. The primary share of wealth transfer from the boomers is going to be right into the hands of the medical industry. From medical care to senior, end-of-life care. I've already seen this myself with my grandmother. She went into a nursing home with thousands of acres of land to her name. By the time they were done, she had little left. It's unreal how much it all costs. My wife's grandma decided she had to have those angels that visit your home and do your chores. It almost drained everything, and they were not poor by any stretch. We used those at one point. They asked her for money all the time. Same with her caregivers at the nursing home later too. My dad was a boomer and died way too young, so unfortunately I can see the future for the rest of us. Our shitty-ass healthcare system will be eating all of our inheritances. Private equity and gigantic corporations will own everything, and we'll all die living paycheck to paycheck. Oh, it's going to be so much worse. Because of filial responsibility laws, there's the possibility of the medical industry going after the assets of the boomers' children for anything their assets didn't cover. They're not being enforced right now, but once the boomers start dying, there's a possibility that they'll be used to collect on anything owed. Just get the elderly sick parent in to take out an American Express and pay all debts off on an unsecured credit card that can kick rocks after they die. Oh, they will be enforced. It's key to remember, millennials are always the first generation to get fucked by the system. We were the first to see an overall drop in quality of life for a reason. Nothing, most of that wealth will be sucked up by the medical industry, never to be seen again. My mom's mom was a terrible person her whole life and was awful to my mom and her brothers and sisters when they were growing up. She married lots of wealthy men and widowed or divorced them, making her obscenely wealthy, while me and my brothers grew up in poverty, ignoring my mom's pleas for any help. When she found out she was dying, she wanted to make amends and hinted that she was leaving millions of dollars to her kids. So my mom and her sisters helped take care of her for almost a year. My mom was left a rocking chair, a fucking rocking chair from Cracker Barrel. Meanwhile, she left her church all of her money. Did that church pour that money back into the community? Hell no, they pretended it didn't happen. Religion is such a profitable scam. Well, she hasn't bought her way into heaven, if that's what she thought she was doing. That's not how it works. Make insurance companies NPOs again. Americans need to mobilize and vote in a government that will force through universal healthcare and eliminate insurance companies from the picture completely. Only then will the cost of healthcare start to be affordable. I'm Gen X, so I've seen the endgame play out 1,000 times with friend and family that have had parents age and die with all different levels of wealth. Hell, my wife's grandparents were loaded. Grandfather came from old money and was a physician who used to have a full-time chauffeur, and all three of his wives had more money than him when they married him. Trust fund wife, divorced well and a widow of an oil exec. Nothing trickled down to his kids, grandkids. 1. Scams, fraud, politicians, religion, etc. Everyone preys on the elderly. Grandfather lost more money than I'll ever have because his stockbroker had a surefire, get-rich company ran by good Baptists. That company was Enron. Older he got, the more worried he got about politics too, so there were donations. Religion got to the grandmother's wealth. But even stuff elderly people need has high margins because so many businesses know the elderly will just pay for it versus shopping around, like scooters, medical equipment, etc. Side note, teach your elderly parents to let you shop for used stuff because medical equipment like scooters, chairlifts, etc. sells for pennies on the dollar on Craigslist and Marketplace. 2. Medical care is expensive, and the one thing we've gotten really good at is keeping people alive longer even if they have no quality of life. At the same time, corporate nursing homes are masters at finding and consuming every dime someone has before they die. 3. If they really have money, they spend it. Long before grandfather's health was bad enough to need nursing care, they were convinced they should move into a luxury retirement community where they could enjoy life more by having someone come around and do their laundry, have a cafeteria to cook them food, etc. When the grandfather died broke and his third wife's kids were paying money out of pocket for her care when she had been a multimillionaire, I was like, what fucking chance do I have to ever get ahead? Only person getting a wealth transfer will be the one whose relative fell over dead long before their wealth was consumed by age. Problem is, youngish people still in good health usually don't have wills and haven't done a lot of estate planning, so even then it gets consumed by probate, taxes and attorney fees from everyone fighting each other for their scrap. This post should be closer to the top. Everyone thinks about medical care and assisted living, but boomers were already getting scammed in huge numbers before generative video and image apps got so good. My mother was a super sharp sci-fi and book-loving CFO of a decently sized company. The man she married, an early computer programmer for a large well-known tech company, eventually took his pension, and sitting home all day caused him to believe every QAnon conspiracy out there. He almost convinced her to sell everything and move to a compound in South America. They were both white and never left the US. After he was diagnosed with cancer, he literally had the goal of spending all of his money before he died because, I earned it and I can't take it with me. After he died, she paid a psychic thousands of dollars to try to talk to him. Within 2 years she fell for a romance scam and lost what I can only imagine to be over $500,000. She won't say anything about it and were forced to pretend that nothing happened to a woman that had 3 homes, multiple cars, and a boat. Now lives in rural America with her third husband, living only off of her Social Security. Almost all those assets are going to be homes. Most people don't save enough for retirement, so a bunch of those will end up as reverse mortgages or will be sold to downsize. Then comes the end of life healthcare costs. There will be nothing left, just like how the boomers like it. The ladders were pulled up a long time ago. Yoop, my parents recently told us that they're gonna take a reverse mortgage and we probably won't be getting anything. Upside down face, one of them is a retired pharmacist, so we never lacked for money. Sucks that they won't be able to pass on any of the wealth acquired from their hard work to their kids. Only the truly wealthy get that privilege in today's America. You aren't getting it. The P funds that own long-term care facilities are getting it. A solid chunk, like 25% at least, will get eaten up by the healthcare system. Watching both my grandpa and dad get old, it almost appears as if they keep them alive to continue farming them for money. I know that sounds wild, but just wait until you go through it. The average healthcare worker would prefer patients embrace hospice care, but Americans never have discussions about the fact that we will all die, so the majority of mamors and pawpaws are fighters, and they want that breathing tube and those ribs broken from CPR. Hence why we spend a large chunk of Medicare dollars on the last couple months of life. My mother has a do not resuscitate order and I will do the same. Nothing like having the hospital billing person come in your room for a talk to rip the mask off the whole system. It only matters if your parents or grandparents are rich. A lot of rich boomers with no kids will leave to charity. Fun fact, 8% of female American strippers go by the stage name of Charity. That is a fun fact. I have had 3 different friends find out after their parent had passed that the parent had done a reverse mortgage on the family home and never told anyone. All three basically received letters that said, "Condolences on the loss of parent, you have 30 days to vacate." Two were living with the parent, as full-time caretakers, one of which had quit their career to take care of their parent. One is now living in a friend's basement, trying to get their life back together. The other lived on the street for a couple months before they passed away themselves. The third has their own home, but had 30 days to remove anything they wanted to keep. Reverse mortgages are predatory, and no one can convince me otherwise. Not even Tom Selleck. Why the fuck wouldn't they tell anyone? Exclamation mark. Presumably the same reason they'd be cool with forcing their child to be their carer. Sometimes I think they're embarrassed by their financial situation. Why the fuck wouldn't they tell anyone? Because they're scumbags. This wouldn't be an isolated example of their behavior. Their kids think, finally, they're becoming compassionate in their final years. No, their narcissistic parents are just using them one last time. Friend of mine lent his dad money to help with expenses. Has been promised the house his whole life. Turns out, dad was in debt, house had nothing to it, lost all the money he lent, never got the house. Also, gambling in many cases I suspect. It can use every and all dollars.